fellow members of the Senate, I want to touch on some of the comments yesterday that were made by the Senator from Orangeburg, Senator Hutto, about education and how, as a body, we are often driven by the crisis of the day. And there were things contained in his remarks yesterday that I could not have agreed with more. First and foremost, I could not agree with him more, that we do tend to be driven by whatever the headline in the state newspaper is. And that is not necessarily, and I know you know this and I know this, is not necessarily the best way to prioritize the issues that face our fellow citizens. He also declared that there was a crisis in education. Now, there's no question that it is, in my view, the second most important issue that we continue to face in South Carolina are the issues that face our K-12 education system. And there are problems. There are challenges. There's work that needs to be done. But there is also a great deal of good work being done. There are many success stories. There are many victories that are being had in the field of K-12 education throughout this state. So yes, it's a job that needs to be done. It needs to be at as high or the highest or maybe the second highest priority we face on any given day. And I feel like this body continues to do that. The 6 years, as I enter this sixth year, every single year, we have spent time on K-12 education, a significant amount of time on K-12 education. And we spend a significant amount of money on K-12 education. One of the other remarks that Senator Hutto offered, and I'll paraphrase, but he essentially said it's not all about the money. And I want to remind, and I think Senator Davis had some questions and touched on some of this the other day, but in South Carolina, in last year's numbers, we've raised those numbers, we're spending, on average, per pupil, about $12,500, in excess of $12,500 per pupil in South Carolina per year. Now, if you think about that, this is a really interesting way to think about that amount of money. If you take a class of 20 children, which is a conservative size of a class, you take a class of 20 children, $12,500 a year, that is $250,000 per classroom per year, every single classroom on average in South Carolina. Now, if we can't get our kids educated on $250,000 a year for 20 kids, we've got a problem. And we do have those problems, and we need to tackle those problems. We had an education committee meeting yesterday, and we heard from the new director of First Steps. I encourage you to get to know her and meet her. Her name is Georgia Majartan. She's come to us from Arkansas. She brings a vitality and commitment and passion to the youngest children that we represent in South Carolina through the First Steps program that is really refreshing. And I think you're going to have a lot of hope for that program when you meet her. And I know we'll be considering the First Steps reauthorization later. But we also heard from the National Principal of the Year. Came from Chapin High School. National Principal of the Year. That's a big deal. That was South Carolina that won that award. There are great things going on out there. We heard from the Teacher of the Year, also the Superintendent of the Year, and heard some real victory stories in our community. So you need to, sometimes I think that I know I look to solve problems. That's what we're here to do. We're here to fix stuff. And so we focus on the stuff that's broken. We spend all our time thinking about, we got this failure, we got that problem, we got SCANA, we got the pension fund, we got Department of Corrections. And we don't take the time to look at the good things and say, we've got a remarkable state here. We're working in a great place. We've got tremendous people that we represent. And I'm going to try to commit to do a little more of that this year and look at some of the good things and kind of enjoy that part of the job and not just focus on the failures. And the bill that I've just filed is something I think is going to be a good thing. And that's what I want to share with you today. We call it teacher appreciation accounts. Let me tell you how it works. Pretty simple idea. This would permit districts in South Carolina, when a teacher gets 90 days of accrued leave, all the leave time they build up after that, they lose. That's typically how it works. And so they'll take the days, which is perfectly fine. They've earned them. However, some of them don't want to take the days. They'd rather stay in the classrooms. They'd rather work with the kids. And so what this does is it lets them carry those days forward, all right? Continue to carry them at the end of the year. they can cash those days in, whatever days they don't use, over 90 days, for the amount that the district pays for substitute teachers. So it's less than what they would get normally, but it's found money for them. So if a teacher wants to stay in the classroom, they don't lose the days, they get something for it. And for a teacher working on a fairly small salary, that little bit of found money, that $1,000 that might show up at the end of the year, that's a new set of tires for the car. That's fixing some of the stuff at the house. That's maybe going on a little vacation. So it's just a way for us to say to our teachers, thank you. We appreciate you. We understand that you got hard work, and we put you in a tough job with not a whole lot of salary. But this is a way, without costing the state any more money, that we can tell them thank you. So I hope I'll get your support as that bill moves forward. Thank you, Mr.